Welcome to the forefront of transformation. MSP+OS launched with a promise. Today, we deliver on that promise. Every day, every project. We're not just consultants. We are creators, innovators, leaders. Our journey has just begun, but our impact resonates. Together, we've turned challenges into opportunities and visions into realities. Now, we're ready to take the next leap, to amplify our reach, to elevate our game. This is MSP+OS. Visionaries, unite. Innovators, ignite. Leaders, let's conquer the new era of IT solutions. The future isn't waiting, neither are we. The live stream starts now.
Hey guys, it's Adam Belansky here, and welcome to MSP+OS Unplugged. I am CEO of MSP Plus, and I'm thrilled to host our very first episode of our series. And as a reminder, we are here to explore the incredible people behind our organization and the services that make MSP+OS it is what it is today, right? Sharing stories and really getting the expertise behind the scenes, right? Getting to understand who we are. Today, we're going to really zoom in on the operational heartbeat of MSP+OS. And we're going to be with none other than Brett Jaffe, our COO. And Brett is also the helm of our organization, and he's also a strategic coach, right? Turning really complex challenges into streamlined success. And he does this in an amazing way. You know, what you might not know about Brett is his extraordinary knack for complex, solving really complex organizational issues, which really perfectly reflects the spirit of what brought him to our organization, our team. So let's get to know Brett on his journey and the operational challenges that are pivotal to our growth, right? Your questions and insights are really welcome here. So don't hesitate to engage with us during the live session, liking us, sharing this video, and even inviting you to leaving us some comments. We are monitoring and we are looking at that. So with that, I'd like to welcome Brett here to uncover kind of the path that led him to MSP+OS. And Brett, I have to say, your journey is through the tech industry has been a long one. Not just because your age, man.
Rub it in.
you know, could you initially share kind of, what sparked your interest in technology and how you led to where you are today? Dive into that if you don't mind.
Lord, that's going back, start to date ourselves really quickly, I think, doing this. But I remember back, probably started back in college, and it was really kind of the beginning of the clone PC wars. And so my interest, I was a biology major. I was not in tech. I was not in a tech field. I was actually pre-med, and I took an interest very quickly in kind of building my own computer for college and got involved. I don't know if anyone here remembers that there used to be a publication called the Want Ads. And so you'd be able to go on the Want Ads and find like these computer parts and all these small computer stores popping up. And building clone PCs kind of got me into it and gave me a little bit of a bug for the technology side. So that slowly graduated with me deciding not to go to med school to get into technology instead, and got into opening up one of the first computer stores in our area, just north of Boston.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you opened a computer store in Boston. I mean, was that a retail shop or is it, what was
Yeah,
that?
it's funny. Everything kind of started in retail at that side. We were doing retail computers. We were building clone computers. We were getting not just home PCs, but we were actually getting contracts for businesses and doing these bulk clone builds out of a fairly small location. I think our shop was 450 square feet when we started,
Oh,
as
wow.
part of that. Um, that really started to get off into the services end. And listen, nothing has changed in IT. I think the best thing about this space is that someone described it as you're building a plane in the air and the plane is on fire at the same time. That honestly hasn't changed to this day. You're learning on the fly. It's always a last minute thing. We got into doing networking because one of our clients was a dental office. He said, "Hey, I need all these computers connected." And we decided to put in a Novell network, and none of us had touched the Novell network before. We made this stuff up as we were going. And that's kind of how you learn tech is you got
Yeah.
in there, and it wasn't about knowing everything because it was changing so fast. It was about the aptitude and willingness and to wanting to play and configure things and learn the hard way. And that's how we got into the services space.
So you jumped in through the services space and kind of, there's, as you look back at your career, right? I'm just curious, like, what are some key milestones that kind of brought you to where you are today, right? Because, opening a retail shop
Mm.
to now, strategic coaching and bringing clients the enterprise value, right? How does that
Yeah.
happen?
So, Laura, you kind of wish you were able to go back and coach your younger self on all the stupid things that you did over the years. And uh, man, we made our share of mistakes. And imagine coming out. I had a business partner at the time. I was the first full time employee, so I had left college, put med school on hold, and decided to go work for a software company doing tech support. And so we really started our computer stuff on the side, became the first time full-time employee, and they don't really teach you business as a biology major. So we're learning a lot of things on the fly in terms of what makes a company roll, and how do you really structure sales where you're not just selling something. Selling something can be natural, but building out a sales structure and focusing on that, and more importantly, building an actual business. And we made every mistake under the sun as we were growing, but we gradually got into the managed services space, which wasn't called that at the time. We started learning about sales and marketing first, and really designing your company around that, and the technology almost becomes secondary. And it wasn't until I got a business coach, that was almost accidental, referred from one of our clients. And you kind of open your eyes like, wow, I've really screwed up everything. So I got to start from scratch. Um, Between getting a business coach on board, and I'd say the second most important piece was joining a peer group. I've always felt that who was it, Brad Shaw, I believe, used to talk about these three legs of a stool in terms of growing a business. And one of those legs was peer group, having like this virtual board of directors. And you find it's like playing, I equate it to golf, right? I like playing golf, but one out of every four shots is really good. So I love playing best ball because usually 25% of the time I'm a great golfer. And when you get
Yep.
into a peer group, it's very much the same. You might have 10 people in that group, and you find you're really good at this 10% that the other people aren't, but they're good at the other 90%. And with everyone sharing back and forth, it really elevates the whole team. So the one leg of the stool was the peer group. The second leg of the stool was getting this business coaching that was specific to the IT space. And the third leg of the stool was getting personal coaching on how to become a better leader through that. And the description is that you can't really operate, and you can't sit on a stool that only has one or two legs. You need at least three legs to balance, and ideally four as part of that. So, learning how to grow as an individual and as a leader. I was fortunate to get a lot of leadership training in the Army. I spent 22 years in the Army. That came a little bit more, I don't want to say naturally, but you learn a lot in that kind of environment. Getting coaching in the business was absolutely instrumental in how to run a good business, and having that peer group, which was my virtual board of directors, was probably one of the best things we did as well into growing and scaling the entity.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that three stool thing resonates with me, right? And typically when I think of MSP businesses, they typically do have to have three stools as well, right? Service, sales, and finance, right? And so for that's for a business, right? But for an individual, that's, I mean, you have your peer groups, have your coach, right? And have that personal coach as well. That's really super critical. Um, you know, uh, we have a mission at MSP Plus OS, right? And I'm just curious of like our journey, or your journey to this is, what resonated with you around that? What compelled you to kind of be part of this, right? Coming from Connect Strat, and it's like, oh, this sounds compelling. This is awesome. Talk
Yeah.
about that a little
So
bit.
yeah, talking. It's funny going through, being part of this journey. So growing an MSP to a point where we were able to sell it, getting involved in the vendor space, being able to sell a vendor, eventually get involved in the coaching space. I got a lot of experience in different aspects of not just business but also IT, and I absolutely love this industry. The people are phenomenal. I still get to play with the tech, although I am by far, I think I'm probably the dumbest person in the room compared to some of the other people that are out there. And really learning, it's so exciting coming into this. And when the opportunity presented itself, we've known each other for quite some time, the other members of MSPOS, and looking at how we are able to touch a business in so many different aspects. And the first thing that came to mind when we are going through this is that image. You see this graphic image of the Neanderthal slowly like going from the Neanderthal to standing up straight. And
Yep.
I always look at that and I visualize that as part of the business. When I saw that there's this whole operational piece that you need in terms of making sure your tool sets set up correctly and that they're aligned and that they're optimized for use, because these tool sets are these 800-pound gorillas that are really hard to tackle for a small business
Yep.
especially. And then going through and figuring out, well, once you have this tool set aligned, now you need this operational component. It's the business aspect. And that's really what my passion was building the business along the way, because it was almost irrelevant of your tool set or everything else that you did. It was about the people. It was about the process. It was about making sure that you're driving the right things. And then going through afterwards and watching a lot of our clients even grow to a point where they were either getting acquired or acquiring other companies. There's this whole additional piece that you don't think about. It's how do you integrate not just the tools, but the HR and the culture and the finance and everything that goes along with that. And when we looked at MSP as a holistic entity, we were this like middle tier approach, and we didn't have the operational piece. We used to refer that out, and we didn't have the piece around doing due diligence and integration of companies in this what we call integration management office that we have now. We were really able to fill this huge gap. And sitting back, and I'm not the visionary. That's your job as CEO. I'm the execution guy. In fact, I remember
Yeah.
doing I forget what it was. It was one of the culture exercises that we did where someone told me, like, Brett, you are never going to create the next Disney, but if someone else does, you'll be the one that can help execute it. So I'm the execution person. Uh, so when I saw the vision behind all these different pieces coming together, and there's an opportunity to be the execution piece to really be involved in building something in this industry that doesn't exist. There's a lot of phenomenal consultants. There's a lot of super smart people. There's a lot of specialists, and they're brilliant. But to bring this all together, and we look and like, hey, can we be the next McKinsey of the IT space? And just the opportunity of even remotely being involved in that's what drives me. That's super exciting. It's why I coach. I love watching businesses succeed, and now I get to be part of that at the same time.
Yeah, it's awesome to see, and it's been quite the journey, right, over the past 5, 6 months since we've been doing this integration and all that
Mm.
stuff. So your role as executioner and COO
That
is
sounds really
really,
bad when you say
I know it
the
sounds bad,
the
but it's
executioner. Yeah.
pivotal. It's pivotal
Yeah.
to our organization, right? Because I'm chasing, I'm thinking 3 years down the line, and I'm thinking, let's do this, and integrate this, and right. So, with all those different things going on, I'm just curious of what aspects you're most passionate about, and then how do you see that those, your work impacting kind of your clients, and then the broader landscape, the
Yeah.
industry.
Um, just honestly, business growth is fun. Um, More than anything else, it was always hard for me to get super passionate around just the tech. I loved it, but it was the aspect of growing a business and seeing the different lives that you touch doing that. So I've always had this adage that your business is either growing or it's dying. And listen, I could be wrong about that, but the reality is that we're trying to give. Yes, the primary goal of business is to make money, but what is money? Money is the currency that you could do to help other people grow and give opportunities. And seeing people that want to build a career, that get excited about what they're doing and are looking for different growth paths and want to learn new tech and want to lead teams, you can't do that unless the business is growing. And so coming into this, what excites me in the business growth is creating all those opportunities for all the people that are involved. And that opportunity is not just for people who were employed there. There's also the opportunities for the business owners who want an exit. And it's really hard to exit when you're the business. So teaching people that this becomes an asset, this becomes something that you can make an exit. But the reality is, when we talk about coaching, it's not necessarily about just the exit or about just the growth or it's about just the money. Every owner has something unique that they want. Maybe they want to keep the business and just be a little bit less involved. I've met some owners that like, listen, I love working this. I'll work 40 hours a week, twice. I'll put my 80 hours in and be happy. Some people want to hand it off to their kids. Some people want to just retire. Everyone has a different goal or piece to that. And that was where the coaching came in is our goal was always trying to help the business owners achieve their specific goal. Usually, you do that by building a business to sell. Even if you don't sell it, it was the right way of building it. Right now, we pretty quickly went to, we're creeping up toward 100 employees at this point, and talking to the individuals in the company and seeing the excitement that we have on the team and seeing people who want to learn new tech and grow into new roles. That's motivating, man. That's something you get up for every day.
Yeah, it definitely lights that fire in your butt and really execute and learn, right? And so, let me just pause here for a moment. We just spoke about Brett's journey to start. We are now streaming. Quite a few people are viewing. If you have some comments, go ahead and leave them here. I see Keith Nelson. How's it going, Keith? Joining us. So it's always fun and pleasure to see you.
Thank
And
you.
Brett. Yeah. Brett, you've been sharing your journey around the COO role, and I just want to talk about also just strategic coaching to some degree.
Yeah.
And so, can you kind of give us a bit of an overview of around your approach and kind of the key components of strategic coaching?
Yeah, and one of the reasons I get into that, I want to say almost, I want to say by accident. It was purposeful, but it was really discovering that when you are able to get in and help companies grow, and that's kind of what you're good at and what excites you. And that's not just what excites me, what excites the other people on our team. As part of that is getting in and helping companies figure out the business aspect of their business. Because if you
Yep.
really look around and you talk to a lot of people, there are a lot of accidental owners in the IT space. There are people who are accountants that came in. There are people that bought a franchise. There are people who were techs that got laid off from a company and started their own IT company just because it was the right thing to do. There are people that did start with intention through that. Everyone has these really cool, diverse story on how their business started. Um, but there aren't a lot of people that have like business training to say, okay, I started the company, but how do I grow it as a business? And it was one of the weak points I had. If you remember, like early on in this conversation, that was always our stopping point. Is I never had formal business training, and one of the reasons we got into coaching is that there is there's like an operating system of running a company that's no different than the operating system of running your computer or your phone. There is a certain set of processes. There's a certain way that you could grow and manage your people. There's a certain way that you could look at how to look at strategic goals of the company, regardless if you're selling widgets or IT services. There is a way of growing a company which is kind of universal across business. And the coaching that we do addresses that. Is going in and saying, listen, tech aside, what's the right way of growing your company? How do you structure your team? Who are the people that help you elevate? How do we get you out of the mindset of being, I'm running a tech company to I'm running a business? And how do I bring other people into this decision making mix so that I could delegate and do either what you're good at or what you love to do and actually building a great company and growing and scaling? So if you think about it, look at the MSPs in general. I think the average MSP, at least a few years ago, was about 6 employees. I think it's grown a little bit since then, but there's a certain percentage of companies that never get over a million. And out of that, there's a smaller percentage that get to two and a half, and then a smaller that goes to five, and even smaller that gets to 10 plus. And if you start looking at these companies that started small and passed 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 million plus, there's a lot of commonalities in those organizations. And taking that and streamlining it and bringing it down to other organizations
Yeah.
is really rewarding. It's what motivates us. And even some of the bigger companies, they still hit certain roadblocks and challenges that we could help with. That's why we do this. That's what I love to do personally. And that's all of our coaches who came as former business owners. That's what they do as well.
Yeah. Nice. So peeling back a little bit layers and digging deeper into under the hood, right? What does workflow look like for you? I want to kind of understand how you tackle challenges that come your way, right? Get to know you a little bit on that side.
Oh, yeah. Um, so there's something you could look it up called the Eisenhower Matrix. I shared it with our team internally in one of the early on calls, but it's a decision making matrix that has to do with priorities. What do you do today? What do you delegate? What do you just schedule out? And what do you ignore entirely? And it's just a
Yeah.
set of quadrants that help you focus your time. That's probably the number one way that I work, and the number one way I try to help people recapture their time is
Yeah.
realizing that listen, not everything is a fire that needs to be put out. There are some fires you could let smolder, and there are some things that need your attention. And the hardest thing is getting things off your plate. So I love using this example when I talk to business owners who are tied into their company. We talk about money quite a bit as part of that. And I like using the example of a typical MSP agreement. Let's say you have an MSP agreement that is $5,000 a month. It's a good contract, right? It's a decent size agreement. Uh, and typical MSP margin should be 60, 65%. So ballpark $3,000 a month profit. So what is that client worth to you over the next 3 years? Now, if you sell that deal, that deal is $100,000 profit deal over the next 3 years. And it might take you 5 or 10 hours to sell that, but look at the value you get for that time. And you start to kind of backtrack that, and all of a sudden, I ask what your time is worth. People throw out numbers. I bill 250 an hour. I bill 175 an hour. I'm like, no, your time can be worth $10,000 an hour if you focus on the right things. And getting people to understand that if you're focusing on the right things and you spend your time doing that, there's a significant impact to your business. So how do I work and how does the team work is much the same way. Look at the things that have the highest impact and the highest value and need to get done. And those are the things you work on. Other things you could delegate, other things you could hire for, other things you could put off, and other things you could just straight out eliminate.
Yeah, I mean it's just to summarize the name of it, it's the Eisenhower matrix, and I think that's
Yes.
really been impactful. Like, uh, I gotta tell you, merging 5 organizations is extremely challenging. And would I advise it? Probably not. But MSP plus OS, right? Being all these different organizations, we have relied on our own, technology and own tools and own, process for this stuff, and that's actually been really impactful. And we're enhancing that particular process with things such as what you're bringing in the organization, which is the Eisenhower matrix, and that's been really helpful at kind of getting the emotional side right. And I have this whole different script around that, of getting over that emotional side, and this helps. The Eisenhower matrix was really, really impactful. I want to talk about, right, because everybody's like, well, our mission here, right, is guiding business leaders, from their vision to make an impact through strategic transformation and really execution, and really making a real life impact. I want to hear a little bit about, maybe could you share like something you did with a strategic coach client that revolutionized the client's operations, or perhaps even highlighting some before and after scenarios a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's. I think again, this goes back to what's rewarding and what you want to do. And I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek, by the way. So finding your why
Nice.
is really important, not just to what you do for business, but in how you run your life. Uh, and I really look at that, and I kind of look back at the different companies I've worked with, and I don't even have just one story. It's what I mentioned before. One of the my favorite things to do is talk to the business owner first. So before we even engage and do any just a coaching engagement, you know, part of it's meeting with the owner and saying, "What do you want? What's not working? What do you want to do?" Um, One of the more impactful, I remember this one company I started working with. They were about 1.8 million at the time. So relatively small, but average size for a smaller MSP. And I think the owner was probably a week away from quitting. And I usually don't advise. I'm like, don't look at like reaching out to technology and services as a golden ring. It's no one's going to save your business. It's the mindset that does. But it was like, listen, I'm just burnt out. I'm doing everything. I'm a week away from just throwing my towel in and going to work for somebody. And being able to talk through that and watching over the years how that business went from 1.8 to 2.4 to 3.6 to, I think the closing out this year at over $7 million. And watching this growth, because it's just a change in mindset, change in focus, and I'm not doing the work. They're doing 100% of the work. I am just the guide there that's helping them, and seeing how the lifestyle has changed to someone who literally was on the verge of wanting to close shop to, now on the verge of, I don't even have to work. I think he's working like 10 hours a week, maybe, only because he wants to. Um, that's what he wanted. He wanted to spend more time with his family. He was spending 80 hours a week in the business. He was going around the clock. His marriage was suffering. watching that dynamic change to how the business has grown and how it changed his personal lifestyle, and how he changed his mindset was phenomenal. And now you see someone who's super happy, not worried about money, the time to spend with the family as part of that, engaged, and now building the team and having the team with the same mentality, moving in that direction is absolutely awesome. It's my favorite story. It's one of my oldest clients. I still work with them today. And I don't take on very many clients anymore because of MSPOS. I'm highly involved in running our company. But that's the part that's rewarding, right? It's seeing someone that you could actually reach out and help, and know that you made an impact and made a difference.
Yeah. Um, you almost like chills up the back of my neck, right? Because that was a pivotal moment, for myself in hiring that coach. You remember the three legs of stool you mentioned earlier,
Yes.
and it's just the whole entire mindset shift. And we do that in our organization today, even, right? What's that mindset shift look like? What's that vision? Because we truly believe you don't have to put out fires. You don't have to run the business like that, and you can actually make an impact and actually be completely engaged with your family and have, that's an impact as well, spending time there. And I think that's really super important, and that's what we exist today for, right? I ran an MSP and I was exhausted, constantly working many hours, right? And so I can kind of relate to that story, and I bet you many people watching this today can probably relate to that story, right? And so kind of looking a little bit in the future, talking about kind of the stories, and I want to shift a little bit to kind of what trends are you kind of seeing shaping the strategic coaching and maybe even the operations?
Oh, it's the coaching. I think the most interesting part of the coaching is the business part of that doesn't change. What changes is what you're doing based on the size of the company. And there is so much M&A happening in the industry right now. One thing that's really been changing for us is the need and demand for leaders within a company. And so the two things that are really fascinating to me, number one is no one really teaches sales in college, right? There's no like course on sales. You come out, you just figure the shit out in part of it. And eh, you learn along the way. And that's why they have different training programs. The other is they don't really teach leadership in college necessarily. So, um, understanding that you have these people that were involved in the company who are very technical, and all of a sudden the company continues to grow, whether it's through organic means or through an M&A, and you have these people who love the tech, and all of a sudden they have to manage 6 or 8 people and be responsible, not just for them delivering the service, but also for their career paths and their growth. um, there's a big demand that we've seen as it's not a shift in coaching, it's an add-on to our existing coaching and what we're doing. And finding out how do we now help these companies develop this layer of management in between, that now you're taking someone with a technical background and giving them responsibilities that's based on the people in the company. No one trains on that. And it's apparent in some of these larger companies, that's where their roadblocks are, right? It's not necessarily hiring, it's building these managers to help coach and train these other people. You can't do it all yourself as a leader. You have to have people below you and be able to delegate that, especially as a company continues to grow.
Yeah, awesome. And so with that, shifting it to the company level, right? How is MSP Plus OS kind of preparing to navigate some of these challenges, right? I know we have like an emerging leaders thing, and we're really coaching. We're really focusing on developing our leaders, right?
And to be fair, we're eating our own dog food, right? We have companies
Yes.
that were fairly small that had maybe one layer of people underneath them. And now we're a much larger entity with different layers of leaders below. And having not just us and the executive leadership team coaching the direct managers below us, but teaching them how to coach their managers as well. But we've built out specific leadership programs. We're able to bundle, leadership training and the coaching offerings as part of that. Sometimes it's, honestly, sometimes the leadership training is one-on-one with the CEO. He's the person that needs the most leadership coaching. Sometimes it is the team that's underneath. It
Yeah.
really depends, but we built out different programs designed for different people within the company,
Yeah.
whether it's a 3-day, group training program or a monthly one-on-one, you know, C-level to leader coach on that end. And that's been something that we've been building inside of our operation, as well as being able to deliver that service to the clients.
Nice. So with, getting those services prepared to kind of navigate those various different challenges, and you talked a little bit about strategic coaching and how that is aligning and the future a little bit. With all these different evolving dynamics, I'm just curious, how do you envision the growth and adaptation of our services to meet the kind of tomorrow's needs? Because our BHAG is right. We are changing the entire industry, right? We are setting the tone and setting the new system for the future. And so I'm just curious of what your thoughts are on how we envision that kind of growth and adoption for future.
So one thing I think is, when I used the analogy earlier of building the plane in the air and the plane is on fire, we're like that, right? Think of all the new technology that's coming in. We had a call internally today, and one of our team members, Parker, had been talking about the imminent death of the MSP industry for years. Everyone's been always telling us that first, Microsoft's coming in with Intune, they're going to wipe you out, and Dell's going to do it direct, and AI is going to kill the business, cloud's going to kill the business. There have been these doom and gloom scenarios for years. And the companies that continue to thrive and survive are the ones that are focused on business growth, not just the tech. What's exciting for us is that we embrace both. We embrace the tech and we embrace the business growth, and being able to deliver of a lot of these pieces, especially as a service-based offering, and starting to build the tool sets around helping other people manage their businesses more effectively. Um, from a vision standpoint, I love the fact that we can enable business owners to focus more on their business and less on the tech, and be able to offload some of that work to us, whether it's management of their back end systems, whether it's helping guide them from a leadership training piece, whether it's helping them with integrations if they're buying other companies, whether it's just the day to day, back end kind of behind the scenes stuff. That's exciting to us from a consulting agency. So we are probably the most diverse. I know we're the biggest consulting agency focused on the MSP market. And there's a ton of brilliant people out there, but no one is doing it at the scale or with the diversity that we're doing across pretty much any platform, being vendor agnostic. Uh, it's fascinating to me, but more than anything, enabling business owners to not have to learn every new thing that comes out, letting them delegate that, and letting them be business owners, is the most empowering thing we can do, and it's the best thing for their business and their profitability.
How do I rap better than that?
Right?
So, Brett, it's been awesome learning about your journey, learning about kind of what drives you, and giving us valuable insights to kind of into operations and also the strategy on the strategic coaching side. Say that three times fast, right? And really kind of what drives MSP Plus OS from executive eh, operations side of things, right? It's really kind of all the stuff we've been through, we want to make an impact, and we're building a plane while it's flying. We're just like an MSP to a degree, and we have our proven processes, we have our different things, and we deal with it in a certain way. And I love diving into these different things, because I believe we are leading the industry, and we want to ensure we remain at the forefront of that industry at the same time. So challenging ourselves, getting in front of everything. So I want to invite everybody to don't miss our next episode, where we're going to dive deeper into another vital part of our organization, bringing you closer to the people and the services behind and what make up MSP Plus OS and the exceptional organization is today. So next Tuesday is going to be Jameson West is going to be joining us. So that's going to be awesome. Brett, thank you for sharing your story, your expertise of working with us, and I want to thank everybody for joining us live, and your engagement fuels our kind of passion. MSP Plus OS is really kind of the unplugged is really to get to know people behind the scenes, insights, and what helps drive the industry forward and what we're doing, pioneering those solutions. So see you next time. Enjoy the weekend. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.